Hi, my name is Martin Purnell, and welcome to Off Grid Christianity, a weekly podcast for those who go or don't go to church and where we can meet and hear from those that have made their faith count. This podcast series is to encourage via conversation. You can contact us as well by email, ogc@accessradio.biz. That's ogc@accessradio.biz, and biz is spelled B-I-Z. And if you haven't already, please could you subscribe by hitting the subscribe button. That'd be really appreciated. Thank you. Today's guest, who is she? Well, she is an accredited therapeutic coach and has helped senior working leaders. She has been accredited for over 20 years. She helps businesses and organisations to understand and subsequently demonstrate that they have a duty of care and welfare in the workplace and how to do it accordingly. Our guest has written 2 books, a novel, At Therapy's End, plus Potholes and Belly Flops. The former title is about domestic abuse, the damage to all concerned, and the novel reveals how sharing and asking for help can give a positive outcome. The latter is autobiographical. So, why does she want to be a page 3 model? What was it like to see yourself in advertising hoardings, magazines and TVs throughout the world? How did you come to terms with a previous lifestyle and the trappings of success with helping others today? Why did our guest want to become a therapist? What do clients say when they find out you're now a Christian? How cathartic was writing both books, and what does she learn about herself? And finally, if you're anything like me, who loves rock and pop, there's a chance you might have an album with our guest on the front cover with one other person. A clue? Well, it's not me. It gives me great pleasure today to welcome to Off Grid Christianity, and that's Susie Flashman Jarvis. Susie, thank you so much for joining us today. Really looking forward to hearing what you have to share. Just a matter of interest, where are we speaking to you from, please?
I live in Tunbridge Wells. You're speaking to you from my attic office in Tunbridge Wells. 5
questions that might be or might not be pertinent. We'll see how we get on.
Okay.
So question 1, if you could invite anybody from history for an evening meal, alive or dead, so that you could ask them questions, who would it be?
Thought about that. Nelson Mandela.
Very good. Yes, we've had him before. Why would you choose him?
I just think he's been amazing. You know, he goes to prison all those years and he comes back out and changes the world. I'm into world changers. So, yeah, him.
Excellent. Good answer. Question 2. Who is your favourite biblical character or favourite story or favourite parable, please?
A Woman by the Well.
Excellent answer. I've had that before as well. Why did you choose that one?
Because she's like me. I think I've chosen someone I identify with. Or Mary Magdalene. All those naughty women. They're the ones that Jesus loved. So I love that. His love of them changes everything for them.
Yeah.
And for others.
It's interesting to say Mary Magdalene being a naughty woman. I had the pleasure of doing a podcast, a special episode a few months ago now with Jeannie Kendall, who's a theologian, just to fly the flag for women in the Bible. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was Mary Magdalene. There's evidence to say, actually, she wasn't a bad person at all. She wasn't a prostitute. etc.
No, she just had like demonic stuff going on for her. And I think obviously viewed herself in a certain way. And I think the nature of my work and what I believe in people is if they're given the best opportunity, they can be their best selves. Yeah, in fact, it's funny, that first question you asked me about who would I invite, I might actually change my mind and invite Richard Rohr, who's alive still.
Who's he then? Because we haven't had him before.
Oh, yeah. Richard Rohr. I've got his book here. He's a Franciscan priest, so he's just brilliant. He's written the most brilliant books. Falling Upwards, The Spring Within Us. He's just fantastic. You'd like him.
Yeah, what does he specialise in those books?
The book I'm rereading is about the first and second half of life and how we live our lives a certain way in the first half, and it's working towards our second half. I don't know, I find he's really spiritually inspiring. I get his emails. He's just very wise. I love wise people. I'd like to sit at their feet and soak up their wisdom.
Yeah, no, I hear that. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, of course, if I could organise it for you to either interview and spend time with Nelson or Richard, you'd have to cook them a meal. What would you cook them?
Oh, my life, I have no idea, because I'd have to know what they like. Then it'd have to be really special. I don't do posh dinners.
Well, you'd have to take them to takeaway if you want, if that helps.
Well, maybe I'd get a takeaway, but I do like to cook, but maybe I'd do them, I don't know, spaghetti bolognese.
Fair play. Question 3. If you're Prime Minister for the day and could change any law or impose a new law, what would it be, please, Susie?
It'd be around domestic abuse. It'll be around changing the law so that those who are caught, the perpetrators, would not be able to get out and get back on the streets. It's all changing now again. And it would be that there's a refuge in every town. And it would be that women are able to go and speak to the police and be believed. It's changed a lot, but still, violence against women is still out there and many are still dying. So I'd be changing laws around that.
Very pertinent. Thank you. Question 4. Outside of family events, what has been your most enjoyable day out to date, please?
Going away in my camper van with my husband. That's my favourite thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, love it. Just going away wherever. We just come back from 4 days in our camper van. Just love it. Yeah. Simple.
What do you like so much about camping then in the camper van?
Oh, just relax. Simple, relaxed. Just nothing matters. It's just great. Go to a site in a field, and it wasn't too bad, a bit chilly, but sitting there with your the coat on, having a coffee in the morning, and just lovely. With 2 dogs. I have 2 dogs. So.
What kind of dogs are they?
Jackapoo and a Yorkie Jackapoo. Yeah, they're lovely. So that's my favourite thing to do. Totally.
Well, that sounds great. I know many people who love doing it as well.
Yeah.
Question 5. What has been your most embarrassing moment to date, please?
I don't know if it was embarrassing being found naked on the internet. Maybe it was embarrassing. Shameful. That might be it.
That was because of your former days as a page 3 model, I take it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because I was reading up on that last night, obviously to get a better understanding of who you are.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have come about had you not had like a second life and started to write books and become a Christian and out there in the workplace. What was it like from your point of view when all of a sudden you found that there were people who actually knew you, who'd come across it on the internet?
It was just bizarre because, back in the day, there was no internet. It was a newspaper. Yeah. You might get wrapped up in a portion of chips, but there's nothing, or be on some garage wall or whatever. It was just bizarre. I walked into the agency, a charity where I worked, and they told me they'd found me on the internet. I was so very shocked. I have no idea how they did, but it was awful because I had a daughter of the same age as me. I was only 19. I looked really young. But also I worked quite a lot with people addicted to pornography. And the pictures that they found were linked to some porn sites. It was just terrible. But the thing about it was, this is what I believe. I believe that God wastes nothing. My mum always said, God's tidy. And that's the catalyst for me writing my book. Because once I sunk into this shame that I thought I was free of, I was a qualified therapist. I think I was probably supervising then. Someone said to me, well, you can just think under it or you give it to God. You know that thing in Romans 12, it says, offer your body as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship. I was like, okay, Lord, have it all. And then I wrote the book, and then I was going to be published by a different publisher. And then they said, oh, it's too much like this other book. I was like, okay, Lord, you told me to write this book. Now it's not being published. What am I meant to do?
Yeah.
And this is my relationship with God, chatting to him like this. So I didn't know what to do. And then I had this sense that God was saying, right, I want you to use your journals and write your journals in the book. So the book is basically, half of it's my story of growing up and my story of addiction and how God frees me from my addiction. I'm the miracle girl. I was a heroin addict, right? So all that's in the first half. And the second half is my journals on being a Christian and conversations with God. So the whole thing changed slightly. And then someone told me they'd met Manoj, who ran Instant Apostle, and that I should get in touch with him. And then suddenly my book's published. And then they wanted to know about the second book I had written. And then they published that as well, which is the domestic abuse book. If I hadn't been found naked on the internet, I might not have written the book. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. And that has opened doorways for me to go and speak at events. I spoke at lots of men's breakfasts and women's breakfasts and church conferences, etc. And he's opened the doorway for me to talk on pornography because I understand what it's like to be naked on the internet. Yeah. So nothing's wasted, I'm saying, Martin.
No. I don't want to talk too much about the book at all other than promote it, because I'd rather people buy the book than listen to,
yeah, sure.
to you explain it, because otherwise it's like, well, you're just rehashing stuff.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm about. But before we make it slightly lighter and then go into your lifestyle as to what you do now for a business, when you said about your daughter, and the reason why I'm asking is because other people listening today might well be having to go through something similar, not on the same subject, but having to explain about their previous life to their offspring. What was it like for you to tell your daughter, this is what you might be finding on the internet?
I've always been open with my children, Martin. They've always known. I was a drug addict. They knew God healed me. I've got a portfolio. They can see it. They've always known. I've always been very honest with my children, not hiding. So it was no surprise. I tried to get it all taken off the internet. There was a politician, I can't remember her name, who managed to get some stuff taken off the internet. And it was very difficult. It's much harder to find me now on there in that stuff. It's much easier. If you look me up now, I'm going to be a writer, I'm going to be a speaker, I'm going to be all those things, not a page 3 model. So it was more the shame of thinking I was free of it and that what I was doing now was nothing to do with that. But of course, our pasts inform our present, and they help us to be the people that we are today. And the shame was my internalized shame about, oh no, I thought I was free, but I am free. So, yeah.
Well, you are. The good news is, to fly the flag for what that politician was doing, what you're doing as well, is that when I was Googling your name and Google puts everything up, including images, nothing there at all.
I know, it's great.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
If I was maybe into the arts of how to do things on the interweb, maybe I could have found something, but I'm not. I'm your average Joe public.
Yeah. I work a lot with, young people who've been filmed having sex, and that stuff's out there. It's just out there, and they can't be free of it, and it's very challenging. Yeah.
But that's more than what you actually do in this line.
So I trained in 1999. I worked as a counsellor. I worked for a Christian charity. I've worked with couples. I'm a couples counsellor. I'm a trauma therapist. I used to work a lot with children in schools. I don't work with children now. My youngest client is 14, and my eldest might be like 70-something. I work as a counsellor, I work with all manner of people. And then what I was finding was, back about 8 years ago, I was finding that people who are very senior would be coming to my house, my little house, in my room, in my garden, my consultancy room, and they would be working with me, but they'd be senior leaders, they'd be CEOs, etc., etc. So I just sensed that God was kind of prompting me to do something to get into those businesses. And then I went on a coaching awareness course and discovered, okay. So then I retrained as a coach. And you can't take the therapist out of me. So I'm therapeutic in how I work with my clients. So now I work with senior leaders, lawyers, business owners, NHS people. Did a lot of NHS work in the pandemic. Can you hear the rain here?
I thought it was a jet flying over.
It's really chucking with rain now. Yeah, so I work with all those people, and that's what I'm passionate about doing. I love giving people the opportunity to hear what they're saying and to be the best that they want to be. Yeah.
Well, let's find out more about being a therapist then, why you went into that. But I did say, and this is a big good link in, I did say that you're on the front cover of a well-known album.
I am. Have you got it?
Which, that one there, people won't be able to see it. But
that's me. Yeah. ABC.
Yeah, I did say the clue was it wasn't me. Obviously, my name is Martin. You're one of two people. The other one looks remarkably like Martin Fry of ABC.
Yeah.
So
it's so funny that I look back at that time.
How'd you get that job?
I just got it through my agent. But I was a drug addict when I had that picture taken. I was really super thin. And the night before, someone I was very fond of had been killed on his motorbike under a skip lorry. And I was a bit of a state when I did that, had that taken. But yeah, so this is my little claim to fame, I suppose. But also, I've done all the Harmony hairspray advertisements, De Beer Diamonds. I remember walking actually into the big cinema in Leicester Square.
Yeah.
And when I walked in, there's my face across the screen. So funny, honestly. I look back at those times. There's me. I'm advertising De Beer Diamonds.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I did lots of TV commercials. So although I started off taking my clothes off, a very good director said to me, you need a new agent, Susie. Get another agent. So I got a different agent. And then if I was going to take my clothes off, they'd have to pay me a shed load of money. And it would be very kind of demure and very...
Yeah.
I mean, never was I like in Playboys and things like that. I was only, like I say, with my top off in, she says, in the national papers. But nonetheless, I used to do a lot of TV commercials with various people. Like the De Beer Diamonds was with Peter Duncan of Blue Peter fame.
Yeah.
And I've done something with, what's his name? Patrick Moore, is it? It was an ad for something or other. So loads of commercials I used to do. I did love doing that. In fact, Tony Scott directed the De Beer Diamonds.
Oh, really?
Yeah. John Sornell, people like that took my picture. What I'm saying is, right, I did a lot of high-end kind of work. But alongside that, I'm slipping into addiction, separate to the work, I have to say, but nonetheless, slipping into that. Have I just gone off piste?
Well, that's great because I was thinking about, I bet she wears Harmony hairspray. That's how old I am. That was a tagline.
In fact, I went to America, to San Diego with Leslie Ash, the actress.
Really?
Yeah, because we used to do similar kind of work with a girl next door people, and she was younger than me, and she had her mum with her as her chaperone.
Oh, really?
To shoot the commercial.
Oh, that's where it was shot?
Yeah, in San Diego Zoo. It's funny, isn't it?
Of all the places you could go.
I know. Anything for a little jolly, eh?
That's brilliant. So, ABC then.
Yeah.
When that album came out, that was their first album. I know you say you were deep into drugs and what happened to your friend the night before.
Yeah.
That band wasn't exactly known at the time when the album came out. What were you told about the shoot and why did you do it apart from the money?
I just did it because it was a job, Martin. That was it. There's no other reason. It just happened to be a job that I was paid to. I couldn't even tell you what I earned. I just did it as a job. I did lots of jobs, lots of magazines, lots of, like I said, TV, advertising, loads and loads of different things. So we used to call it bread and butter money. We'd do stuff for catalogues, all the little ones and Grattans and stuff. And we call them our bread and butter money because you get like a couple of trips a year and you go off and stand there in your plastic Mac with your eyes watering in a bull ring while they try and go, open your eyes and smile. Like I can't. My eyes are running. So all sorts of different types of work, whatever I was asked to do, I suppose, really.
Yeah.
For a long time, I did well, but not with my mental health, I suppose, and the way I was living.
Well, it's interesting to talk about mental health. Thank you for sharing about ABC. And I'm surprised that people haven't sent albums to you, or maybe they will as a result of this. Can you sign this?
No. I mean, I'm not even acknowledged on it. In fact, I tell you what.
I know you're not. I checked up on it.
Yeah, I'm not acknowledged. I was the original Impulse girl.
Oh, were you?
Yeah. Don't know why I'm thinking about. Well, I think I'm thinking about that because it's very linked to somebody I used to live with, a man I used to live with, and how it had all gone pear-shaped. I just remember because I lived like in Japan and I lived in Holland, in Amsterdam for months at a time. I'd work in those different places. Yeah, it's funny thinking back on it, actually. Very different to my life today. Very different.
Well, let's talk more about it, if that's okay. But with the emphasis, if that's all right, on mental health, because that's something very dear to me as well. So for those who want to know more about your lifestyle beforehand, there's a book that they can go and buy.
Yeah.
But suffice to say, heavily involved in drugs. You were talking about your mental health. Mm-hmm. You became a Christian, which is a fantastic story in itself, how that happened through a friend who wasn't a Christian, and you picked up a Bible off the bookshelf. And
I was already a Christian, though, Martin. To interrupt you, I grew up as a Christian. I was baptised when I was like 17.
Oh, really?
So those who are listening who are not Christians or kind of curious about it, I just didn't believe I could hear God. I didn't believe I could have conversations with God. When I prayed, I couldn't pray out loud. I was really, I don't know, I just felt that it was someone else's faith. I always believed, but my experience of, some Christians it wasn't that great. It wasn't until I kind of cried out to God. And what's funny is in that story you said about because of a non-Christian, I became a Christian.
Yeah.
The reason God saved me from my addiction is I had given my friend Diane the Bible that saved me.
Well, tell us more then, unless that's in the book.
Well, it is in the book, but yeah, I pulled this Bible off a shelf and had a moment where God turned up and he freed me from my addiction, from my heroin addiction.
But did you say you actually gave your friend Diane the book in the first place?
Yeah, because I've always been an evangelist in some way, shape or form, as in sharing what I believe. I've always believed. I just didn't have that intimacy with God. It wasn't until years later that I said to God, look, I'm going to give you my imagination. Can you speak in my imagination? So now I have these conversations in my head. And in the book, actually, you can see in the actual book that there are conversations with me and God, me arguing with God, arguing all the time with God about, he says things like, there's an incident when I am speaking actually in Streatham Baptist Church, and we leave and we're driving back home. My husband's with me, and we go into a local fast food place which is full of people, and we're eating our burger. And God says to me, "Go and give that woman your book." In my head, and I'm going. So I'm not telling my husband this. He's sitting opposite me. I'm going, "What woman?" He's going, "You know what woman?" I'm like, "No, I don't." "Yes, you do." Anyway, my husband goes and gets a car, and I walk over to this woman who's running a party or something. Hand her my book, go, "Here you are," and walk out. And I'm looking at her through the glass as my husband gets the car, her looking at the front and back of the cover of this book, going, "What is that?" And about a month later, get a phone call from her. She goes, "Oh, it's me from this place." "Oh," she said, "why did you give me your book?" I said, "Well, I thought God told me to." She said, "Well, all my brothers have been heroin addicts and they've died and I'm the only one that's not." And then she goes to church because of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And all because you obeyed.
Yeah, and sometimes God asks us to do things that we think, "Oh, it's really stupid. I can't do that. I'm going to look like a right idiot." And when we do it, we find out that God actually is in that.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm guilty of not paying attention to him a lot. Life's busy. I've got 4 grandchildren. I'm working still. Got another grandchild due in a couple of weeks, which is very exciting. And life's busy. So I don't spend enough time being with him. But when I do, he never disappoints. And I'm like, why don't I do that all the time? And it's the business of life, Martin. It just says the business of life. And how do you How do you lean in and hear the whisper? How do you do that? In fact, I'm going a bit off piece. I'm going to tell you that.
Because that was going to be my next question anyway.
What?
So I'll ask you, and we're actually going to go off piece deliberately because
Okay.
nothing better for me than doing just that.
Okay.
So how do you listen? And also, I'm going to be really controversial here in a nice way.
Yeah.
Because there'll be people saying, oh, yeah, we're not really hearing God at all. That's because of your previous heroin addiction. It's all your brain all fried up. So perhaps you'd like to throw that into your answer as well. Off you go. Enjoy.
See, I don't think it's anything to do with my previous. I just think I believe that God lives in us. His spirit lives in us. And he can speak to us in whatever form. He can speak to a line in a book or a thing on the TV or driving past something on the wall or all manner of things. Once you say, please talk to me, please help me, Lord. I was going to say to you just now, my goddaughter had breakfast with me. She asked me to speak at her wedding. I'm like, what? So I spoke at her wedding. There were like 100 people who weren't Christians. It was fantastic. I said to her, look, I asked her, what do you want me to do? She said, I want you to tell your story. I'm like, look, I can't talk about being a heroin addict at your wedding. So then I was saying to the Lord, look, what should I do? And what I realised is what he was saying was talk about faith. Just talk about faith. And so I told them the story. I stood at the front. I just had a knee replacement. I was at a crutch. I stood at the front and I said, okay, so she's asked me to talk about myself. I said, but I'm not going to stand here and tell you I used to be a heroin addict and all these mouths dropped open. I was like, your mouths have all dropped open and that God saved me. I'm going to tell you that Jesus loves a party and his first miracle was changing water into wine. And I told them things like that story about the woman in the burger place. And I told them another story and just talking to people normally about how God speaks. I'm going, you might be sitting there under the trees and you're getting this kind of feeling in your body that something's going on and just be open to it because he will speak into our minds. We have the mind of Christ, he says. And when we open our minds up, we can hear more that he's going to say. Now, you do have to kind of work out, is it me thinking this or is this you, Lord? But you can work that stuff out by the sense you make of it. However, he might ask you to do something that feels really random and is pretty random, but it's not to the person you're going to say it to. And sometimes we have to be prepared to take a risk. So here's the thing, right? I've been public speaking for years, but since the pandemic, I've only had a few speaking engagements, which I've really loved. But we were listening to, a friend of mine was talking in church, and she was talking about what doors does God want you to open and what doors does he want you to close? And I've been thinking about that, being older, and do I want to do less work? What do I want to do? And I had this thought that really the book, I told you briefly, I'm in the middle of trying to publish another book. This book would be the catalyst for me speaking at events because I can use this method of coaching, which is what it's about, to be the format for a talk. So I spoke at a church in Hemel Hempstead, a women's event, and I used it as part of what I was doing, and it went down a storm. So I'm thinking, right, Lord, you want it to be a public, I think maybe I'm meant to be speaking. And I get the UCB word for today thing. Mm-hmm. It lives on the floor in my toilet. No disrespect, but, it does. So I'm thumbing through it, and it says public speaking. I'm like, what? So that's one thing. And then I had a client who was a pastor who told me, I'd never met her before, had one session with her. And at the end of it, she prayed and she said, I want to tell you that I believe God's saying that he wants you to speak in huge auditoriums, And that was a word that I'd had 15 years before. So I would say to people who are listening is, if you kind of open your mind to it, it's really exciting. It's not boring. It's not stopping you doing stuff you want to do, or it is really exciting because God will speak into that place. He definitely will.
Yeah. Still want to stay off-piste?
Yeah, of course.
Good. Right then.
Love being off-piste. It's my favourite place.
Well, let's go for it then. Bear in mind what you just said about trusting God, basically. I love the bit about risk because how do you spell faith? R-I-S-K. You need to do that, which is a big thing for me, and we'll be doing a special podcast on that in later months. But going back to your wedding, it was like, from my point of view, when I was a training officer, you need an interest getter. And immediately you did it when I was a heroin addict. And you said 100 miles sort of dropped down. What? Yeah. Immediately you had them there. Yeah. And then you shared what you wanted to share. And bear in mind, it was a wedding as well.
Yeah.
Something must have happened afterwards. I cannot believe nobody came up to you afterwards at the reception or whatever.
They did,
and didn't say anything. Of course they did. So what happened?
Well, just different people came up. I mean, the brother of the bride come up and wrapped his arms around me, and People talk to me about all manner of stuff, mental health issues, this, that, the other. Someone reflects on the fact that I said that about Jesus turning water into wine and Jesus loves a party. And they're like, I heard someone go, blimey, Jesus loves a party. I didn't know that. And different people came up and talked to me about, wow, that's really interesting. Just different questions. But I would say, I don't know, half a dozen maybe people came and spoke about, wow, that's amazing. I just think what happens with us Christians sometimes is we live on these flipping clouds and we're no earthly use and we need to make it normal. We need to make it normal, for goodness sake. God is in the detail. The devil's in the detail, but God's in there first. It was really very special. I was very nervous about it because it was her wedding. She'd already been married in the church, but this was another thing. And it was so lovely because it talked about community and connection. Because the reason I was there was my mother and the mother of the goddaughter, her mother and my mum had been friends in church. And she had told me, my mum had told me that her friend has said, such and such has had a baby and her daughter's really poorly. Can you pray for her? She goes to school around the corner from you. Uh-huh. And I was walking to school, very near to that time. And I was like, are you Anna? Across the road. And she's like, yeah. So she and I become friends. We pray for her daughter, who's fine, by the way. And good. I am then invited to become the godmother of the baby. And then my husband does a bit of alpha ad hoc in our house. Her husband becomes Christian and various stuff goes on. And the reason I was at that wedding was because of that moment on the path to school.
Are you Anna?
Yeah. Are you Anna? Those moments, it's a bit like someone told me of a woman whose husband had died on a lilo trying to save their children. Children had lived, he hadn't, and that they went to our school. And I remember seeing this woman who I hadn't seen before. And I said to the Lord, look, okay, if you want me to talk to her, she needs to be outside my front door when I open it in the morning. So she's outside my front door when I open it in the morning.
Really?
Yeah, walking past.
Wow.
And I become friends with this girl and offer her support. And I don't do a lot. I'm in her house a bit and spending some time with the kids who are a bit off the planet. You can imagine trauma and grief. But I remember years later and she's like, oh, Suze, you never know what difference you made. I'm not blowing my own trumpet here. I'm just saying I didn't do a lot, but I did do some love and care, I suppose. And sometimes we're asked to do that thing that's a little bit uncomfortable. And God I feel challenged myself talking about it today, thinking, well, what's he doing right now, Susie, for you? What are you doing right now for him? I'm kind of going, okay, Lord, what is going on? It's been a bit of a year. I've had like 4 different surgeries and my mum died and it's been a bit of a hellish time, I suppose.
Yeah.
And now I'm ready. I'm post knee replacement. I can walk upstairs now and I'm ready for what he's calling me to next. I'm excited.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's positive.
Yeah.
Staying off piece still, if that's okay.
Yeah.
We will come back eventually. I will bring you back so we can get to the finish line because I'd love to know why you became a therapist.
Okay.
But let's encourage those people, and I can put myself in there as well, where, as you said, there's so many people out there who are so heavily minded of no earthly use.
Right.
That can have a detrimental effect in church as well, and people then get fed up. Like you said, you were brought up and you were Christian at an early age and then went slightly off the rails. For those that are listening today that maybe can understand more from where you're coming from, but are still struggling with their faith, what would you like to say to them today?
I said God loves you where you are. He loves who you are, where you are. He also loves you probably too much to leave you in that state or whatever that condition is. And I would also say, look, within the church and all religions, there are people who mess up. The thing about the church is it's full of sinners. That's what you've got to know. It's full of people who've screwed up. Some who know they have and some who don't. Some who've become Christians as a kind of family thing and some who have a live faith. I don't live with a faith of judgment. I live in a faith of love. I believe God really loves us. I'm going to be really controversial. I'll tell you, I have a gay son who lives with his partner and I had to do a massive journey on that to say, is it right? Is it wrong? Because I was raised, in my faith that it was wrong. And now I don't think it's wrong. And I've done a huge journey in that stuff and my faith is richer for it. And I would say, however you view yourself, what gender you are, what sexuality you are, however you view yourself, God loves you. He didn't make a mistake. He did not make a mistake when he made you. He made you because he loves you. He created you in your mother's womb. Whether you're someone who's a result of a rape, or you're someone who's been abused like me, or you're someone who views himself with an imposter that's massive in their head that says, I couldn't possibly be that, or I'll never amount to that. The truth is, Martin, that God loves you. He just loves you, and he waits. He waits for you to say, Lord, could you, would you talk to me? That's really what I believe. A lot of my clients don't know my story. And I remember working with a woman, she was very senior in a law firm, and she'd suddenly found me after working with her for like 9 sessions. She'd found me on the internet or whatever. On my website, you can see all about me because I'm very open about this stuff. So she found me. I was like, oh, how do you feel about that? She said, well, I think it's amazing. You know, it didn't crush what she thinks about me because I used to be this promiscuous woman who would have sex for her heroin. It didn't change how she viewed about me because I am who I am today. And those people who feel far off or that the church has really screwed them up could well have done. Jesus still is there loving you. That's what I think.
The irony of all what you just shared is that the album cover.
Yeah, Lexicon of Love.
Yeah, ABC. But it's true, isn't it? What you're saying there, God loves whatever.
Yeah, he does. And that's why those stories in the Bible of those that I relate to are those who are marginalised and have lived lives that aren't great. And he loves them anyway. And that's, you know, he doesn't leave us stuck. He says, I really love you. One of my really good friends is Steve Chalk. We have to stick our head above the parapet if we want to make a difference. And lots of people won't like it. And lots of people won't like me for saying that. Do you know what? I don't care. What I care about is that people know that they're loved and they're precious and God can save them and change them and heal them and do all those things. And I want to be someone who makes a difference.
See, my problem is, for me personally, and this is not about you at all, or what you've said, but a slightly different tangent subject. Good friend of mine over here, several years ago, and I know what he did in a previous life. And he said, well, God couldn't love me. He said, I'd like to believe, but I can't because of what I've done. And I didn't really know what to say. So if you'd been me that day when he said that, or people listening at the moment are saying, well, I'd like to know God, but he can't love me because of what I've done in the past, whatever it is, what would you say?
I'd say, well, I believe that God loves me implicitly, and I have been a prolific shoplifter, promiscuous. I couldn't tell you the people I've had sex with. I have no idea. I have lived a life of crime. I've got a criminal record for my drug possession. And yet, I know he loves me. I just know he loves me. I feel loved by him. I mean, I went to him recently. I was saying to the Lord, my knee replacement's so terrible. This is so much pain. And I go to this place in my mind, right? A visualization, people would call it. And I imagine myself going in this gate and I walk in and Jesus is there. And in this pasture, I call it, there now has become a greenhouse in this pasture. So I walk in this greenhouse in my mind and Jesus goes, there's a cup of tea for you there. I'm like, thanks. He's got his back to me because he's tending to seedlings. He's got his back to me. And I say, my knee's so painful. And he said, did you talk to me about it? And I was like, no, I didn't whinged on about it on my own. He speaks in our minds. It's just the most wonderful thing. It is truly the most wonderful thing. If you've got to let go of preconceived ideas on how he is. There's a quote I've got up here. It's by Viktor Frankl. It says, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is the power to choose our response. And in that response lies our freedom and our growth. We have the place to be still. I've got 2 tattoos. Get me. This one says Selah, which is in the Psalms, and it means pause.
We don't actually know what it means, do we, really?
It means pause, draw a breath.
Right, okay.
That's what I'm assuming, because he wants us to pause. And the other one is, they're both Hebrew, is Hineni, which means, here I am, Lord. Like Moses said, here I am.
Oh, okay.
And I think if we can find the pause to draw breath, then God can speak into that space.
Very good. I can just hear my wife in the background, if she was listening, which she will obviously later on, saying, preach it, preach it, preach it, because you're saying very much the same sort of thing that my wife Alison keeps telling me as well. In her particular instance, when she was severely ill with ME for 18 months and couldn't move as she was in bed, this is what she always tells me. The reason why she says, Martin, you can't hear God speak to you is because you don't have time to listen. And when I was in bed for 18 months and couldn't move, that's when you start to understand the small voice that is God.
Yeah.
Moving on just slightly,
Right.
as we get back onto track, but I'm more than happy to keep going off piste as well.
That's right.
With everything you shared so far, what made you want to become a therapist?
So I had a child, my eldest, and we've always had to work. I've always had to work because my husband didn't earn enough money. And so I ended up running a preschool.
Mm-hmm.
So for 9 years, I ran a preschool, and my daughter came with me. She was little. And then my second daughter started when she was 10 days old, and she would be with me. So I didn't want to have my children and let other people look after them. Oh, it's in the book. I'm not going to talk about that. The fact that I'd had a miscarriage because I was a drug addict. Don't want to talk about that particularly.
Yeah.
So I'm running this preschool, and it's accredited, and it's very nice. It's lovely. People bring their naughty children because I like working with the naughty kids because I was one. One day, I just thought, you spend a lot of time talking to mums. Maybe you should train as a counsellor. And people laughed about me training as a counsellor because I talk. So how could I be a counsellor? I couldn't talk.
It's listening that counts.
I know. But I was like, I wonder if the Lord wants me to do that. And the next morning, a flyer dropped through my letterbox that talked about a counselling course at a local college.
Mm-hmm.
And I applied to the social responsibilities within my church for funding. And they agreed to fund me. And they funded me for my whole training. It all fell into place, you see. That's why I started doing it. Yeah, that's what brought me to it. I can go really off piste again, but I'm not going to. But that's what it was. I just had this sense, God saying, maybe you should work as a counsellor because people talk to you. So it's not just whether it is that you can listen, obviously, but it's also, do people feel safe to talk to you?
Yeah.
And if they feel safe to talk to you, why would you not set up a way of helping them? So, yeah, I trained as a person-centred counsellor. And, here I am 26 years later.
Well, let's go back off piste then. You said you didn't want to, but I'm going to take you off piste. And maybe it could be to do with the fact that certainly I have found in my life, in my walk, that actually what you've done in your past life, God can use now.
Sure.
And if you're going to be a therapist, if you're going to be a counsellor and you know how to listen, one of the biggest words that you have to get your head around is the word empathy. Many people can sympathise, but for me, empathise means, well, yeah, actually, I can do more than sympathise because I've been there.
It's not that, though.
So what do you think?
For me, empathy is like, the meaning of empathy is to be able to put your foot in someone else's world whilst keeping your foot in your own.
Yeah.
The worst thing to say to a client is, I know what you feel, how you feel. Because you certainly don't. And the truth is, if you can give somebody the secure base, so what's his name? I can't remember. A secure base in therapy is a place where you can spring from because it's safe. If you can provide that with a client, they can be all that they can be. They will develop and be everything they can be. That is what's really important for a client. But also for me, the other big word in counselling is congruence, meaning to be fully yourself, to be yourself for the benefit of your client. You don't pretend, you don't wear a mask. I always say to my prospective clients, I say, look, I'm not a nodding, person. I am like this. I talk. I will listen to you. I will try not to interrupt you. I will listen to you. I will find out what's going on with you. I'll give you space to do that. But I'm never going to leave you itching in silence because that's not how I work.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people go, thank goodness for that. And so I work like that, the authenticity of it, the congruence of it, empathy. And the other core condition is unconditional positive regard. So regarding somebody in the most positive way you can, even if you think how they live is not okay, to regard them in that way, in that loving way, helps people to grow. And I say to clients, look, I'm going to hold my belief in you in my back pocket. I give it to you once I see you run with it. But I believe in you. And once I see you start to believe in yourself, I'll give my belief to you and hand it over to you.
But even so, whatever you've done in the past and how bad it is, God can still turn it around.
Totally. He uses everything, doesn't he?
Yeah.
If you can give it up to him. If you don't hold it, these are my horrible little secrets and I'm going to hold it in here. The thing is, right, he knows anyway. There's no point. There's absolutely no point. He will use everything for our benefit and for the benefit of others because he loves us too much for not to do that and loves others too much not to do that as well.
So, when a Christian comes to see you, how screwed up are they actually, do you think? And a part of it is because maybe wrong doctrine, maybe the church pressure's been put on them. What do you say to them?
I think you're as screwed up as anyone else. I mean, look, domestic abuse, 1 in 4. Addiction to pornography, 1 in 4. In the church and outside the church. The church is as full of damage as outside the church. So I work for a charity. I'm an ambassador for a charity called Restored, and that's about seeking to end violence against women in whatever form that takes. And we need to stand up and talk about that. We need safe spaces, sanctuaries within our churches. We are part of a patriarchal religion, and we need for people to know that just because you said something at the altar to marry your husband, it doesn't mean that he can do this to you or that to you. And it is primarily men against, it is sometimes women, but the main perpetrators are men. And addiction, sex. We don't talk about sex in the church, but actually addiction to pornography is rife, and it affects the same neural pathways as cocaine or heroin. It rewrites your neural pathways. And I work a lot with people who are addicted to things like pornography. Couples come, Christian or not, they come, and that's the third person in the marriage is the pornography. And people who are addicts don't understand it. So Naked Truth, run by Ian Henderson, is an amazing charity for your listeners. They have a thing called Click to Kick, and you can sign up for that, and that will put you in groups to help you. And that's really useful. And Restored is a charity that will always benefit from people supporting them. And they can come to your church and help you to understand domestic abuse and put training on in those churches, so that they become safe harbours. So, yeah, there's my passions.
Episode 50, I think it was. To celebrate it, we did a special on prayer and mental health.
Okay, yeah.
And I wanted to call it, so I did. The tagline was, I can't possibly have mental health issues because I'm a Christian.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad you went, tell me more.
Well, I remember at one stage taking antidepressants, and I was speaking at a big event at a church, a big women's event. There were, 100 or more people there. I just thought God was saying to me, I want you to talk about taking antidepressants. And so I did. I said, look, many people think that taking antidepressants is wrong. They're Christians because God can heal that. But actually, God made doctors who created these drugs, and actually we need help. Sometimes we just need help. You should have seen the length of the queue to speak to me afterwards, because they're like, thank goodness someone's talking about it. There's so much shame about that. And it's really uncalled for and unnecessary. Talking therapists help, but sometimes you need more. Maybe it's for just a short period of time, and maybe it's for longer. It is ridiculous to say that to be a Christian, you can't possibly have mental health issues. Christians commit suicide. They do. They use substances and gambling, and I'm part of the Recovery 2 group. I worked with them for a long time, ran recovery courses. And, Justin Larkin would talk about gambling and how it totally wrecked his life. And gambling is another one of those things. It gives you that buzz in your brain. It's very addictive. And Christians do it all the time. It's really not just the territory of non-Christians. This is about humanity. So mental health issues are as prevalent in the church as they are without. Having said that, it's been proven that meditation, prayer, that still place is really good for helping you to manage some of the stuff. But it doesn't take it away. It's just something to ameliorate it, to calm it, but it doesn't take it away. Loads of people that I know have help with antidepressants because that's what's necessary. Chemical imbalance, they need it.
Well, in the remaining few minutes we've got before we find out who your Christian hero is, you said, I don't want to go off piste, but I do, but I don't, sort of thing. Let's quickly go off piste again.
Okay.
What's really narking in your brain at the moment on a subject? What do you want to talk about?
Listening to God and being patient. Being patient and letting them do stuff. Like I said about domestic abuse, and I've said about pornography, those are things that have been my driving thing for years. But that's it, really. I'm part of a church that I was welcomed into 38 years ago, pregnant and unmarried. And they welcomed me in. And I'm still there because I was welcomed in by these older people who just loved me and kept me in that space.
Yeah.
And now I lead worship, and I'm part of a group, and my 4 children, they don't attend. One of my children attends with my grandchildren and our husband, the first one who I was pregnant with. I think the church is on a journey. I suppose that's my little axe to grind. We need to be welcoming to everybody, and we need to check our facts on what's God says is okay and what's not.
That's very interesting. Tell me more why you say that then.
No, because I've spoken to lots of people who are very anti-gay marriage, and you've got all the transgender stuff. I mean, like, who, honestly, Martin, who would choose to change their gender on a whim? No one would. People live inside their bodies thinking, I'm a male, but really I'm a female. And every morning in the shower, I see I'm a male and I don't want to be that. I want to be. I mean, kids. I don't mean young people. I mean, like, older teenagers. You know, I just think, for goodness sake, give them some credit. If they are not at home in their own bodies, pay attention. And I am not someone who says that we should be changing gender and reassignment stuff young. I don't think that's a good idea. I think it's bad. We need to wait until someone's older, even though it's very half of them. We have to wait so they really do know what they want. But just thinking, oh my life, they're so judgmental about this stuff. And yeah, I could get on a bandwagon about that because people don't choose this stuff. When we discovered my son was gay, my husband said, this is what I know. I know he's not choosing it. He just is. You know, and my son was told, this is not the best way. And he's not come to church because of that. And I think we do a lot of harm with the things we say. We need to love people. We need to really love people. It's not our job to call it out, their behaviour. I don't think so. I think God does that. We just have to love people. I knew when I was being promiscuous, it wasn't the way to go. But I was caught up into my addiction. I needed to do my journey to find my freedom. And when I found my freedom, I stopped doing that stuff. You know, I've been married to one man, the father of my first child, who then came to church and now does the sound in church. All those years ago, that man is the only person I've had sex with for 38 years. And we have 4 children. And I have my youngest, my boys, our adopted son, who came when he was like 11 months old. And God just takes everything and uses it. And yeah, we need to get off our judgment things. God loves us. You know, he prompts us and makes us a little bit itchy and uncomfortable when we're doing something that's not great. But he loves us. And that's my doctrine.
And the word patience as well.
Yeah. Patience is difficult when you're someone like me who's a bit ADHD, who is ADHD and is running around like a headless chicken trying to make stuff happen. God's timing, putting yourself in environments where people of wisdom can speak into your life is really a good thing.
Yeah, tell me more.
Well, just spending time with people who are wise, who'd say, I don't know if that's a good idea, Susie. Because we talked at the beginning about giving God our imagination and working out what is here in God's heart and here in our own. So checking what we think God might be saying. Like I said to you, thinking, okay, Lord, are you saying you want me to go back to speak at events and want to be a keynote speaker? And is that what you're saying? And then being open to it and seeing that in that UCB Bible thing and then that client saying that to me. That's what I believe he does. When you start to talk to him about that stuff, listen to wise people and see how they would speak into your life. So, yeah.
And leading into the final question and find out who your Christian hero is. Eventually, I would have thought when you have clients turning up, eventually they'll find out either by you saying something or they hear from someone else that you're a Christian. And the reason why I'm asking this is that people who are in a workplace, eventually someone will say to them, what's their response when you tell them, yeah, I am a Christian? What do they normally say to you?
Well, it's funny, because when the pandemic hit, I thought, oh, that's it. My business is shut down. That's it. And then I started working online with people in the NHS, loads of people, lots of different faiths, lots of people of colour, lots of people, like I say, different faiths. And I remember I was working with this Muslim guy and he's talking about faith and how he is. And I said to him, so I'm just going to tell you I'm a Christian. And he went, oh, that's great. Isn't that great? Because you understand faith. That's it. People of faith understand faith. They understand faith. And I think, I don't tell everyone I'm a Christian. If I think it's useful for the client to know that, I will. Mm-hmm. If they're a Christian already, they might have come to me because they know I'm a Christian. If it's useful for them to know, I definitely would. Because some people got a very funny idea about what a Christian's like, not like me. So
brilliant. We've had an amazing time going off-piste. We've gone off-grid, hence the title.
We have.
Which has been really, really wonderful.
Into the long grass.
Definitely into long grass. Susie Flashman Jarvis, who is your Christian hero, please?
My mum.
Please fly the flag for your mum. What was her name? Tell us more, please.
Her name was June Flashman, and she just loved me, whatever. She just loved me, whatever. She read my books twice when other people wouldn't. She was just there. She just loved me through thick or thin, and she taught me God is tidy. And I miss her every day. And not in I miss that kind of holding her hand and talking about stuff with her. She's part of the journey of me speaking to my goddaughter, isn't she? She's part of the journey of me believing I can do stuff. She's my hero.
And the fact with your lifestyle, when you left the home, 17, something like that? 19?
19, yeah.
She was still there for you.
Yeah, she was.
And the abuse that you suffered in the family home, I take it, she was still there for you.
Yeah.
What else can you tell us about her?
She was much loved. She was much loved in her church. She was a woman of faith that liked to write a bit of poetry. She was kind and warm and gentle, yeah.
Wonderful. I love when people fly the flag for someone I've never heard of before. And thank you very much indeed for that. Those that want to get hold of you, Susie, to say, hey, I've appreciated what you said. They might disagree, who knows, but they want to write to you and say things, nice things, please.
Yeah.
How can they get hold of you, please, Susie?
Well, they can go on my website, thebespokecoachconsultancy.co.uk. That's the best way.
I'll put it on the site as well. And what have you got for the future?
Well, seeing if I can get this book published, seeing what God's got in mind for that, carrying on doing what I'm doing. That's about it. We're looking forward to meeting a new grandson.
All the best for that. That'd be brilliant.
Glorious, hey?
Susie, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great going off piste with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
God bless. Bye-bye. And if you haven't already, please click the subscribe button. It means a lot. Thank you. Next time on Off-Grid Christianity.
But therein, there were lots of fascinating questions, which we believe, hopefully, for the local church at this time and for individual Christians, it's really helpful to see how people are coming to faith, what helped along the way. And so many of the challenges that come out of it are actually around that relationship aspect. How can we be a good friend, give time? People said they wanted patient discussion. They wanted to be able to ask questions. They wanted to see authenticity of how does your life and faith really go hand in hand? Going back to some of the challenging scenarios we've already talked about today, that was where people said that they appreciated, through this research told a story, they appreciated that support and the love and that unconditional love and care of Christians. And it made them beg the questions of like, why are they like this? So that's what started the journey for a lot of people. So there's loads in the research for people to dig into if interested.
So please join me with our special guest, who is head of mission at Evangelical Alliance, and that is Rachel Heffer. Until then, cheerio.